Now, with the story of the Texas mall shooter, the Texas mall mass shooter, it's a familiar tale of the misogyny to fascism pipeline. When you got the repugs and the faux echo chamber, which is the ugliest online rhetoric, every time they spew their racist rhetoric, they ensure that more men will fall down this rabbit hole. So police in Allen, Texas, were terse in their admission that the killer in the latest mass shooting, which took place at an outlet mall outside of Dallas over the weekend, had white supremacist beliefs, which would not surprise me if that was true. It is unsurprising, of course, that police in a suburban county that voted for Trump might be less than enthused, talking about how the shooter embraced an ideology that's been fired up by the sympathies of the current GOP squatter and leader. It's not unsurprising as well that journalists who followed up found that the situation was far uglier than these law enforcement hints were allowing. Now, the excellent team of far-right investigators at NBC News got the grim details of what Mauricio Garcia, 33, was up to online. His social media platform was a smorgasbord of every flavor of fascist subgroup that dwelled in the bowels of the internet, and now on Elon Musk-led Twitter. Garcia was into Nazi stuff. He repeated all the incel garbage. He posted photos of himself wearing a right-wing Death Squad patch, which was worn by at least one of the proud pricks who participated in the January 6th Klan insurrection. And he's a fan of Nick Fuentes, who was a dining companion of Trump and an admirer of Hitler. But for a security guard who died trying to save people, the victims fit the profile of the kind of people that was now fired, of the now fired faux host Tucker Carlson, who's a racist piece of shit anyway, and loved to demonize regularly with the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, which is something that's not happening at all. Now, 3 members of a Korean-American family, an immigrant from India, multiple Latino people, 2 of whom at least were little girls, and there's no timetable available of Garcia's radicalization process, and with the chaotic nature of the internet, it's unlikely that there will ever be. So it's not entirely clear what his entry point into the world of fascist politics was, or when it happened. Now, still, the prominence of incel rhetoric in his feed is a crucial reminder of how central misogyny and male insecurity are to the far-right recruitment strategies. Now, when a man buys into the mythology of toxic masculinity, but also feels he's falling short of his own macho ideals, he's the perfect mark for fascists online looking to grow their numbers. Now, as it was written about last year, the masculinity influencer Andrew Tate, who is currently under house arrest in Romania on rape charges, is the clearest example of how this works. He put out videos and other social media that purport to offer advice to young men on how to get laid and make money, but in reality, it's a bait and switch. It doesn't offer substantial advice at all, but instead it bamboozles young men into believing that the pathway to ladies and riches is being a misogynist prick. Of course, the opposite is true, as both women and employers back away from guys who are parroting Tate's rhetoric. And it works to Tate's benefit by keeping his sycophants in a state of failure and insecurity. And Tate can keep squeezing them for money on more useless lessons and the standard cult practice, really. Now, once these guys get caught in the misogynist online underworld, they also become easy marks for white supremacists and other neo-Nazi recruiters. Once you buy into this idea that men are the real oppressed class, it's really not much of a leap to start believing that white men are especially oppressed. Now, white supremacists also know how to appeal to the deep insecurities of men who are caught up in toxic masculinity. Now, the world of white nationalism is awash in the imagery of male overcompensation. Heavy weaponry, tactical gear, ugly tattoos, fighting poses, being inbred. It's all about appealing to men who are feeling inadequate and they want to play at being tough guys, even though they're really the reason why they're not tough is because they got small dicks. Now, researchers looking at Garcia's social media postings have flagged the centrality of misogyny and masculine insecurity, which is typical enough on the far right side. The team at the Southern Poverty Law Center had wrote this. Garcia had posted lengthy misogynist tirades to his account, often using derogatory terms for women, including sandwich maker and baby maker factory, along with more typical slurs. He reposted content from a forum popular among incels using the words Freud and Stacy, term incels used to dehumanize and stereotype women. And one post that appears to be written by Garcia was titled Nymphet, which is a term coined by Vladimir Nabokov and his novel Lolita, and it's a term that was favored by pedophile people to sexualize young girls. Basically, Garcia's post says, "I fucking hate women." There, I've said it. That's what he basically said. It's gross, right? But typical for incels or other men who have been soaking in men's rights rhetoric. As with white supremacist chatter online, both the frequency and ugliness of the rhetoric have grown worse in the Trump era, and because they're getting so much validation from sources like Foe and GOP douchebags, when Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott ships immigrants out of the state to dump them like they're trash, it emboldens white supremacists to double down on their hateful language. But when Trump insults the various women who have accused him of sexual abuse or saying they're not sexy enough to rape, that's a go sign for online misogynists to ratchet up their own nasty rhetoric. Now, Garcia's last name and apparent ethnic identity have been the source of a lot of confusion online about how it is that he was a white supremacist, and much of that confusion is bad faith trolling by other racists who are trying to muddy the waters about the direct line from their ideas to a mass murderer. But there are some well-meaning folks who get legitimately confused. Historian Kathleen B. Liu, who's an author of Bring the War Home, The White Power Movement and Paramilitary America, had tried to clear up some of this confusion on Twitter by pointing out that many Latinos consider themselves white, and white supremacists opportunistically recruit anyone they can, even those who they consider people of color. Now the misogyny angle to this should also shed some light on how this all works out. And it's not for nothing that some of the most prominent maggot extremists that are Latino or black found their entry point to fascism through misogyny. Enrique Tarrio, who was recently convicted of seditious conspiracy for his role in the January 6th counterattack, had led the Proud Pricks, a group whose name and primary recruiting strategy center around pretending men are an oppressed group even though they're not. Nick Fuentes of America Last, who the shooter was a big fan of, also explicitly targets very young virgin men by appealing to their sexual insecurities. Most famously, rapper Kanye, who's basically nuts, had went off on the deep end and started hanging out with overt white nationalists only after he had fully immersed himself in the world of men's rights, which is in response to his marriage to a celebrity whore, Kim Kardashian, was falling apart. Now, the various warnings of an impending civil war missed the point, as Salon's Chauncey Debega argued. America is actually in a slow civil war. Now, for years, there has been an urge in the mainstream media to treat various right-wing ideologies as separate, and it's a distinct bucket of thought: the anti-abortion people, or the racist, or the anti-LGBTQ people. Now, the men's rights people, or the people who want the Bible taught in biology classrooms. Technically, I'm an atheist. I do not want the Bible in any classroom, but in truth, these groups have always been intertwined and overlapping to the point where many of these distinctions are without difference. And it turns out that the Christian right isn't just sexist and homophobic, but they are fucking incredibly fucking racist. And it turns out that white supremacists also have a rigid view about traditional gender roles. Now, the enemy of fascism is never just one group of marginalized people, but anyone who steps outside of their strict ideals about racial, ethnic, religious, and gender hierarchy. Now, if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. You can also leave a comment, let me know what you think. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just a little as a few bucks a video or a month, your donation can help go a long way. And thanks for listening.